Hello, my name is Craig from Learn the Web, and this is part 3 of my tutorial on building a modern website with Flexbox, CSS Grid, and BEM, and some other fancy stuff. If you've not checked out the first 2 videos yet, go check those out before you get to this one. Otherwise, this one might be a little bit confusing because we're going to jump straight into where we're at and we're going to continue building this website. So this is what we've built so far in the other 2 videos. We've built the header here. We've built this area here, which took up the majority of the last video. And it's all kind of responsive so far. So if I open the Chrome DevTools, you can see that it's kind of responsive. It's pretty much where we want it at. And then in this video, we're going to focus on building the Blockquote element here and focus on how we tackle this. This is a bit of a different kind of layout. Normally when you use a grid, the things don't overlap in the grid, so we're actually not going to use the grid. The way I'm going to build this for this video, we're not going to use a grid for this section here. We're going to use something else. But first of all, we're going to tackle this. But before we get to that, I want to cover something else. I've just noticed as I've been writing this that I haven't been really using many semantic HTML5 tags. There's a reason for that. There's not actually many HTML5 semantic tags that I actually use in modern production-ready websites. Because I'm building websites with a BEM methodology and a reusable methodology, often using a semantic tag such as a main tag or a side or an aside tag or something like that can mean that it's too specific for the purpose that I want to use it for. And also, if we go over to the HTML5 Doctor website, we can see that there's even confusion on this website as to which semantic tag to use in different instances. For example, the footer element here, this has been superseded by the below article. The aside, which is a notoriously confusing tag to use in HTML5, they've also written another article about that. The nav element, they've written an updated article about that. One of the things that was first introduced in HTML5, the H group, which was the idea that you could keep reusing an H1 over and over in a document and it'd slowly get smaller, the H group thing has been removed. So there's actually lots of elements in HTML5 that aren't as simple as they first seem. So for example, if we want to use the main tag like this isn't as simple as it seems. When we're actually using the main tag, we should only use it for the content that is unique on the document that we're in. We shouldn't put sidebars in it and we shouldn't put other things in it. What people tend to do when they're actually using the main tag is they'll use the header tag like this, which by the way is generally fine. I do use the header tag. They'll use the footer tag, which is another one I also use. And then they'll use a main tag like this. That's not correct. The main tag is only meant to show the content that is unique to that document. So even in just these 3 simple tags, it can actually be a bit confusing on when and where you should actually use HTML5 tags. So the top and bottom of it is that I don't actually use that many HTML5 tags. The only ones that I use is the header and the footer, and I actually don't use any of the other ones. The section tag, it's kind of here nor there. It doesn't really matter if you use it. It isn't the law to use these things. They're just semantic tags, and a lot of the way that I write HTML and CSS is kind of not very semantic. A lot of it is performance. You write in HTML like this and you write in CSS like this for performance. It's not to make it look pretty. Often you're using way more divs than you're actually taught to use, and it's just a performance thing. It's a way to build the website as quickly as possible, and it's a way to make the website as easily changed as possible as you go down the line. So this kind of way of thinking is vastly different to thinking about semantic tags and HTML5 and things like that. I just thought I'd bring that up because you're probably looking at some of the things that I've written in here and thinking, well, he's not used a HTML5 tag in there. The short answer is I don't actually use that many HTML5 tags. Take from that what you will. So let's build the Blockquote section of this website now. So if we're going through this process again of what I keep saying is we're building a modern website, we're building a website that's kind of professional ready. The next thing that I'm going to build is this Blockquote here. And I'm not going to build the block quote how you probably expect either. I'm going to use the semantic tag for the block quote. So we're going to make a new section down here, and I'll put the block quote in first so you can see how that looks. We're going to add the block quote, remove the site. And remember, with block quotes as well, you're meant to put p tags inside it. So I'm going to put a p tag in there with the block quote. And then I'm also going to add a site in there, which is the John McCarthy site. I don't know why it's telling me I haven't got Poppins installed, because I have got Poppin installed. So I'm going to use a site tag there and put John McCarthy. So we're going to start by doing that. And then I'm going to do something as well on my site. I'm going to wrap a div around it, and I'm going to wrap a div around it called block quote. In fact, let's call it something different. I'll call it quote instead. So this is another instance of me using something where it's not exactly the proper way to do these kind of things. It's not the classically proper way to do these things. I'm making something that's flexible. Remember, I'm making a website that things can be moved around. So technically, if the block quote tag was to change, the underlying source code would still work. There might be an instance where you can't use the block quote tag and you need to use something else, or you want to apply the same block quote styles to something else. So the way I'm going to build it will be portable enough for that to actually happen. So the next thing we're going to do in here is just put class class quote body. So remember, I'm using the body thing again. And then at the bottom, I'm just going to put class quote name. So these are the three things we're going to use for this quote. So I'm going to come back to the CSS and make a new section and call this quote. And then inside there, we're going to have the quote first of all. And then we're going to have a quote body, and then we're going to have a quote name. So the quote name thing is probably going to be the easiest thing to deal with. I'm going to use the include that I've already got, which is the uppercase. Remember, this is the mixin I made in one of the first videos, so it's going to almost look how I want it to look straight away. I'm going to remove the italics by doing font style normal. And then I'm just going to look at the size of it. So it's quite small. It wants to be the same size as the other things that I've already written. So I'm going to look at the size of this in here and just find out the size of that and use that. 0.7 rem. So I'm going to change the size to font size 0.7 rem. And then I'm going to change this typeface as well to be the one that I've used for the headings. So I've come back up to the top, font family headings, and go back down to my new section, which is somewhere down here, font family headings. There we go. And now we just need to change the colors. So this is a color that we've already got set up in our variables file, which is heading color. So I'm going to reuse the color. And that should have changed the color. Did it? Oh, it's changed it on the quote name because I put it on the wrong thing. So let's put that up here too. And the quote name wants to be the same color as well, so that's good. So let's look at the size of this. It says 52 point, but those sizes are not correct in that document. So I'm just going to try and guess this size. So we'll try 1.5 rem first. And change the font weight as well to normal. Maybe it's about 300. That's not changing the font weight, so let's have a look at that. I might not have actually included the other font weights, so let me just double check that. Yes, I haven't, so let's go back over to Google Fonts and make sure we include the lighter version of Playfair as well. I just want to check what it is. I think it's going to be 300. It's regular. So it is 500, I believe. Let me just see how they've defined it inside here. 400. So I'm just going to add another size in here, 400, like that. There we go, that's better. And this all wants to be centered as well, so I'm just going to center the quote. Come back down to my quote section. Text align center. And I'm still going to make the size of the quote just a little bit bigger because it's still not quite big enough. That's too big now. So let's make that a bit smaller. Normally, I wouldn't have to guess these font sizes as much as I'm having to do in this tutorial. Now I use Figma or I use Sketch where the font sizes are much more accurate than Photoshop. Photoshop, by the way, is not a good tool for designing websites. It's especially not good for the developer when it comes out at the other end because the font sizes can be slightly wrong or they're just basically wrong. So please use Sketch or use Figma. I'm going to do some videos on those in a future time as well for you to check out too. So I've pretty much got that right. That's going to do. That's going to be fine for now. And then I just want to finally check my HTML. Let's just see how I've done this. So on the site tag, the quote name, I'm going to put a margin top of 20 pixels. And that didn't work. Let me just check. So we're going to display that block. And now it works. And let me just check, see if that size is okay. That's about right. And then finally, we just need to put a margin bottom on this. So let's just go back to our HTML and just look at the hero, which is here. And we're going to put in the hero, yeah, we've already got the hero there twice. So we've got the hero here. We don't need those anymore because we moved it all to our media queries in the last video. So I'm going to put a margin bottom and I'm going to just work out this size in this document. So let's take the ruler. I'm going to do a margin bottom of 150 pixels. So that moves that down like that. And then we also need to just make the width of this smaller too, because in the design, as you can see there, it isn't the full width. It's actually about 6 columns across. So that's about 50% width. So we're also going to make the actual quote width 50. And then we're going to do margin 0 auto to put it into the middle of the screen, because if we don't do that, it'll stay stuck on the left. And now that's in the center, and then I think we're gonna probably about 800 pixels wide or something. We're gonna make this go the full width of the screen. So I'm gonna remove the width from the quote here, and I'm gonna come down to the min width here, and then make a new one at the bottom for quote. I'm gonna put width 50% in there. So now, if I resize this, it's 50%, and as we come below, it goes like that. That's what we're wanting to see. And then I think also I'm going to move the margin bottom, which I put on the hero. We're going to make the hero margin bottom a bit smaller on mobile too, because I think that's just too large on mobile when I can spell hero and not put gyro. So I'm going to copy that because we're going to need that in a second. I'm going to change this to 50%. That's better. And then come to the hero in here and put 150%. So now when I resize this, it'll zoom it down the screen a little bit more, and that's looking better. So we've nearly made this quote here. The only thing left for us to do is this vertical line, and I'm going to do this by just taking a look at this first. I'm going to get the sizes of it, and then we're going to do this with an after instead, because I think it's more flexible. So we're going to make this box here with an after element on the quote. So I'm going to come back into the quote, and I think we probably want to do this all screen sizes. So I'm going to go to quote when I can find the quote. There we go. And I'm going to use some CSS things in here like this, and I'm going to put an ampersand, which is referencing the thing that I'm inside, which is quote. Then I'm going to put a colon which references a pseudo class, and then finally I'm going to put after. We're going to make the content nothing. By the way, if I put some content in here like this and press save, you can see it adds some content into the page, into the after. And if I use the dev tools to just look at this, you'll see that it's added a new section in the block quote. There it says after. It's added a new section with the content of SD. I don't need to put any content in there to make this work, so I'm going to take the content out, display this block, put a background color of brand color in there, and then I'm going to make the width, I'm going to try 2 pixels first and a height of 50 pixels, and let's put the line in there like that. And then to center it, I'm going to do margin 0 auto like I did last time, and that's centered in the middle of the screen, but it's not big enough. So let's look at the PSD and actually look at the actual sizes of this. So it needs to be 2 pixels wide and 100 pixels tall. So I've got the width right. There we go. And then I'm just going to put, I'm actually going to put a margin top and bottom. So just a margin top. I'm going to leave that as auto and put auto. So I'm going to use the other kind of short tag for margin and do top, right, bottom, left. So the top is 0 at the minute, the right is auto, the bottom is 0, and the left is auto. So I'm going to change the top to be about 30 pixels, and it moves it down like that. And then I'm going to make the bottom to be about probably 20 pixels. In fact, I'm going to just leave the 0 there like that, and I'm going to do the same here. And then I'm going to put 30 pixels on the bottom here. So that should lead on to the element underneath. And I'm just going to resize this and just make sure it looks okay. Yeah, that looks fine. And now we're going to move on to the overlapping images underneath. So first of all, I'm just going to export these images, again using the Photoshop Generate tool, which is File, Generate, Image Assets. So I'm going to select this image first inside here, turn off the shadow because it looks like it might have a bit of a shadow on it. In fact, no, that one hasn't got a shadow on it. So I'm going to save that one as surfboard. Remember, this is 2 times, so surfboard at 2 times.jpg, and I want to save it out at 80% quality. So I'm going to put an 8 on the end. And then I'm going to type 50% to make a 50% smaller image. Surfboard.jpg, an 8 at the end to make it 80% again. And that should be in my assets folder inside here now. There we are, we've got 2 images in there. And I'm going to copy and paste those into my sites folder for this project. By the way, these images are very big at the minute, but at the end of this video we're going to make them a lot smaller using TinyPing, so don't worry about the sizes just yet, because I'm not worrying about the sizes yet. And then we just need to save out this image as well. If we were building this properly, this looks like it should be a video, but we haven't got any videos for this, so we're just going to save it in as an image for now. This does have a background shadow on it, so I'm going to turn that off first of all. And then we're going to repeat the same process again. So this is somebody surfing. This is the 2 times image, so I'm going to put at 2 times.jpg 8 to make it 80% the size. And then I'm going to save out a 50% size one and call it surfing.jpg. And that should save 2 images out inside the folder for me here. Yep, there they are, the 2 images. And then I'm going to paste them into there. So we've got our images now, and we're going to put them into some new markup. I'm going to make a new section for this. I'm going to call it Showcase Box. In fact, I'm going to call it Showcase instead of Showcase Box. So we're going to make a new element down here, and we're going to call it Showcase. And then inside that, we're going to have a Showcase image. And then following the same convention that we followed everywhere else, we're going to have a Showcase body. And then we're going to put the image inside here. And the image is assets. The First image was surfing, so image surfing.jpg, and that chap is surfing, so I'm just going to put the alt tag as surfing, and that's pulled the image in. And then we're just going to put a 2x source set image in there as well. So I'm going to copy and paste that, change it to source set and put 2x on the end. There we go. And then I'm just going to make sure I put the sizes in here for this image too. So I'm going to come back to this and find out the surfing dimensions. I'm going to copy those from there and put them into the document like this. So I can do the same thing as I did last time. I think that's 706, not 06. So the width is 706. The height is 549. And that will make the image the original size as it was before. And then we're just going to copy and paste this for the time being and put another one underneath it. And the second image is called surfboard. Change this to surfboard, change the other one to surfboard as well, the 2x image. And I've just realized that this as well should be at 2x in there. So that's why it was showing the smaller image previously. There we go. And I just want to double check that I've not done the same here. Yes, I have. So in the earlier video, this should have been at 2x there, like that. And that's the only image I've used. Oh yeah, I've used that image as well, but I've done it properly at the top. So we've got our two images in there now, and they're not doing anything at the minute. They're just underneath each other. So the first thing I want to do is put them next to each other, but we're not going to use the grid to do this. I'm going to make a new div, and I'm going to call this dflex. The reason I've called it dflex, it basically refers to display flex. This is a Bootstrap convention. They use d- to mean display, and then they give many other classes like dblock, dinline block, and things like that. So we're going to make a similar class that allows the things inside to be display flexed. So we've put a wrap around it like that, and then I'm going to come into my grid, and I'm just going to write in here, because we don't have this in the grid at the minute, dflex display flex. And it's going to put the images next to each other. That's the first step as to what we are doing that we're going to do here. Now the next step is I want to make these both 50%, but I want to make the second one bigger. So I'm going to put showcase -- bigger on this one. And again, we're using modifiers here because I wanted to make a slightly different showcase element. So I'm going to do that first of all. And now I'm going to come into my CSS again, make a new section called showcase. I'm going to set the width to be 50%, and we'll make this responsive shortly. Width to be 50%, and then the showcase bigger to be a width of, let's try 70% first. So there we go, it's made one of the images bigger than the other one, which is what we wanted to see. And then if we just look at the design, it overlaps it a little bit, and then it drops it down by probably about 40 pixels. So next I'm going to put a margin top on this of about 40 pixels, and then I'm going to put a margin left on this of -5%. This is what's going to make it overlap the other image like that. And is that about the same overlapping we've got in there? Let's overlap just a little bit more inside the design. So let's try 10% instead. Let's try 7%. I think that might be the sweet spot. Yeah, 7% looks about right. So all we did there to achieve that is use the incredibly useful thing of minus margins. Minus margins in CSS allow you to overlap things that shouldn't normally be overlapped. It's a little bit similar to how absolute positioning works, where we can overlay things and stack things on top of each other, and we've done a similar thing by doing this here as well. And now also, because we've done it with percentages, you'll see that it looks okay when we make it smaller. And there's not going to be much responsive work we're going to have to do to this to make it work. And the final thing we need to add is, if we just look at the design, we need to add this as well. So I'm going to utilize the info block that we've already created to make this. So I'm going to go back to my HTML and use the info block body, which we've already got. And this is where the portable thing comes in really handy, because all I'm going to have to do is just copy and paste this into the one with the body, which is this one. And it's going to put the content in there, and it's going to resize it properly. And then as soon as I add info block CTA to it as well underneath, I think I might have a CTA in here that I can copy somewhere. No, I haven't. So I'm going to write info block. If you remember back to the first video, we wrote this in the first video. I'm going to add a P and then an A and put read more. And that's made read more look how we'd expect. And now all I need to do, and I'm just going to budge this down actually, on my showcase element, I'm just going to come into here and just put, for the time being, I'm just going to put margin bottom of 50 pixels, just so we can see this at the bottom of the page. So that looks okay, but I just need to change the width of it slightly. So inside showcase, I'm going to put info block body, width of probably 70%. Yep, and then if we look at the design, it's actually moved down and to the right a little bit, down and to the left a little bit. So we're going to put a margin top on this of 30 pixels, and then a margin left of about 20 pixels. And we're going to move that stuff, instead of it being on that, we're going to move it to the showcase body, and then things will move across. So now if we look at this responsively, if I shrink this down, it looks okay all the way down to, let's have a look at the sizes here. All the way down to 800 pixels in fact. So what we'll probably do is we'll utilize the 800 pixels responsive point again. Or in fact, no, I think we'll actually just leave this as it is. It looks okay. Even all the way down to probably 300 pixels, it's starting to break a little bit there. So I think what we'll do at 500 pixels, we'll just change it. We'll keep the images overlapping because I think they look fine, but we'll change the width of this so it goes underneath the entire thing at 500 pixels. So we're just going to make a new media query in here, and we're going to put media min width 500 pixels. So the thing that we're going to put in here is going to activate at 500 pixels and upwards. So we're going to move the showcase body stuff out of here, and we're going to put it to here. So now when it goes wider than 500 pixels, it does that. Below 500 pixels, it does that. So we're going to change the margin top on this. We're going to make a new section called showcase body and put a margin top of probably 100 pixels. So it drops underneath, maybe just a bit smaller than that. Yeah, that's kind of okay, maybe just a bit further up. Yeah, about there. So it doesn't look great. It's not the best way of me doing it, but because it's still inside this block here, I would prefer it for it to go wider than it actually does. But I think it's okay for what we're doing here, because I did say we're gonna build a website responsive to kind of an intermediate level. So I'm happy with that. I think it looks okay enough for now. So we've built the block quote section. We've built this quite complicated overlapping section using minus margins, and we're going to leave this video here, and we're going to come back in another video to approach probably the most complicated part of this design, the surfboards. I hope you've enjoyed this video, and if you haven't checked out part 1 and 2 yet, please go check those out, where we build this bit and this bit, and I'll be back in a couple of days' time to build the rest of this website.